When we talk about perfectionism-based anxiety, we're really describing a type of anxiety where your sense of personal worth becomes deeply tied to how well you perform or how you are seen by others. And the pressure this anxiety exerts on you to be seen as the best or competent or generally perfect creates an incredible amount of anxiety within you. So this isn't just about wanting to do a good job at work or in your day-to-day interactions or tasks. Sometimes even small things are high-stakes tests of your values as a human being. No matter what type of anxiety you have, the goal is always the same. Anxiety wants to keep you small, safe, and separate. And that's quite the paradox there with perfectionism-based anxiety, because it's also telling you that you have to be the best and the most popular. It's a real trap. So my whole approach to anxiety treatment is based around this rigged game that anxiety has us playing. So we first of all have to know the rules of the game. We have to know the game itself, and we have to know the goals before we can start our little revolution. So here's a quick challenge for you. I think perfectionism-based anxiety has a number of core traits that I see over and over again in my office. And I would love for you to let me know in the comments how many out of these 6 core traits you tick off as I run through them. So go grab a pen and we'll dive right in. Number 1, people with perfectionist-driven anxiety often don't believe their value and worth is a fundamental given. They believe it is actually earned through accomplishments and how others see them, maybe their work or the things that they do, the things that they wear, how they appear. So it might feel like your entire life is being performed on stage with the paparazzi monitoring everything. And your worth is determined by the quality of your performance, or your worth is open to judgment from anyone and everyone. That means that if you don't appear to be perfect or good enough, it feels like you're not a good enough human being, that there's something fundamentally wrong with you. Number 2, ordinary tasks become high stakes. Because your self-worth is on the line, even simple or routine activities transform into immense challenges. For someone with perfectionism-based anxiety, signing up for a new class, giving a presentation, or even writing an email can feel like a do-or-die situation. Every single detail feels like it reflects directly on your intelligence, your capability, your fundamental worth as a human. Number 3, the trap of impossibly high standards. This anxiety type often leads to setting impossibly high standards for yourself. So you might strive for 100% certainty or demand excessive evidence before acting, but usually always you believe that you have to do everything possible to make sure no one else makes mistakes. When you don't reach these outrageously high goals or fall short of them by any amount, you are utterly devastated and crushed. I recently consulted with another therapist who had a college student client who dropped out of classes after receiving a B on a test. They were just unable to tolerate anything less than perfection. The next one is external validation and self-criticism. One of the core drivers for perfectionism-based anxiety is a reliance on external validation and achievement to feel worthy. And when this type of anxiety is active, you might constantly find yourself comparing your achievements to other people's successes. It can feel like a personal failure when you don't match up to them, even when it's not. Any flaw or perceived failure is high-octane fuel for your inner critic, which relishes any opportunity to point out shortcomings, failures, and mistakes. And if that is not bad enough, your anxiety can have the same debilitating impact just by pointing out whenever someone else you know succeeds or does well, because it knows that you will fill in the blanks and criticize yourself for not being as good, smart, fit, funny, rich, or successful as they are. This internal criticism is so strong, I call it the self-attack statue, and it leads you to feeling more anxious, more stressed over time. When anxiety levels for individuals with perfectionist tendencies get too high, I find that there's sometimes a tendency to actively avoid situations where they might be judged or make mistakes, especially social situations or anything new where they might not know how to perform perfectly. This avoidance is another trick that anxiety pulls on us. When you say no to the thing or cancel the event or skip out due to all of those anxious thoughts and feelings, you will inevitably get an immediate sense of relief. And then anxiety tells you that you feel better because you said no, and therefore you should probably say no more often and say no to everything. The trap is that you never get to learn or grow from working through whatever it is that you avoided. You never get to tell anxiety that you can actually say yes to things and that you are competent and adventurous and capable. Here's the last one. Perfectionism-based anxiety and procrastination are deeply entwined, with procrastination often serving as a significant symptom in this anxiety. So perfectionists already have this immense pressure to perform flawlessly, and when that is combined with the simultaneous fear of falling short, it creates a paralyzing double bind. So in this state, the fear of failing is just as terrifying as actually failing, and that fear makes it even possible to start a task. Any task might feel like you're standing at the base of Mount Everest and have the goal of reaching the top in the next, 6 minutes. It's so overwhelming, it's so intense that you don't even know how or where, and you just freeze. This fear of imperfection directly leads to stalling and procrastination. Delaying action just feels safer than risking an imperfect outcome. And this is why underneath procrastinators are perfectionists. People with perfectionism often demand high evidence requirements, meaning they need to gather more and more information before making a decision. It's often an excessive amount of research and analysis, but it serves as a form of stalling as well, preventing you from actually having to pull the trigger on a decision and risk being wrong. And to be fair, there is some logic to this, because you do need to get some information, but anxiety and procrastination and perfectionism itself generates more anxiety, because the longer you stall, the more you delay, the more there is to worry about. And you create this reinforcing cycle where worry makes more worry and the pressure becomes bigger. So let me know in the comments how many of those 6 points you relate to. And if you got 6 out of 6, congratulations, you are doing perfectionism perfectly. But before you celebrate, I want you to drop into just how hard this can get. One of my friends is a perfectionist writer, and she told me that their writing can turn into a crawl. Writing a single, simple sentence can be an ordeal that lasts for days. And she knows how irrational it is too, but is utterly powerless to stop it. I was recently consulting with another therapist about a client who has perfectionism, and we saw how this perfectionistic streak doesn't just torture the client, it actually spills over into his relationships, causing him to impose these really impossible standards onto his loved ones as well as himself. So his partner not only has to handle all of the anger that comes up when he doesn't meet his own standards, but he also holds his partner to the same standards as he does himself, and that is creating all kinds of relationship issues. The saddest part for me is when I ask my clients with perfectionistic streaks if they would like to give up their own perfectionism, and often they say no, or that they're afraid to do that. And that is because it accounts for so much of their drive and success. They are deeply afraid of giving up the thing that tortures them, because it also helps them achieve. So how do I help people with perfectionism-based anxiety? Well, first of all, I want to assure people that I don't want to take anything away from them, especially if it's drive or success. But at the moment, it's an on-off button that is stuck and it won't turn off. I would like to replace it with a dial, and I want my clients to be in control of that dial and their perfectionism. I want them to be able to regulate it, so that at work, you can turn it up and you're doing amazing things, but at home, you can tolerate a bit of mess in the kitchen and a few dirty cups in the sink. But before we get there though, I have to help people understand that problems can't be solved by thinking with the same framework in which they were created. I think that is an Albert Einstein quote. I first of all have to help people see that the current way of thinking is like wearing a pair of glasses that is distorting everything. When you wear those glasses, everything seems bigger, brighter, stronger, faster, fitter, and you seem to be the exact opposite. So you might have been wearing these glasses for so long that you think I'm nuts for even suggesting that there's another way of seeing the world. So you might have to trust me, or at least be willing to imagine that maybe the specific way you view the world and your role in it is part of what is keeping you stuck. Sometimes there are tiny ways that we can help you alter your perceptions by challenging the thoughts that come up in your head. So it would be very perfectionistic of me to say to myself that I had to write the perfect YouTube script for this video. If I start to play it out and challenge it, it begins to shift my perception. Like, why does it have to be perfect? It'll be embarrassing if no one watches it. Yeah, it might be. It might be embarrassing. It might be unpleasant, but I've been embarrassed before. We have to start standing up to the bully in our heads. We have to yell back at them. We have to get angry at them. You cannot win a game with only defensive strategies. You have to go on the offensive once in a while. So for a perfectionist, this might mean deliberately doing something imperfectly or starting a task knowing it won't be perfect, welcoming, tolerating, and predicting all of the uncomfortable feelings that come up as a response and surviving them. Anxiety and perfectionism are telling you that you're going to crumble and combust if it's not perfect. But when you prove it wrong, that you survived it and it perhaps wasn't the most pleasant experience, so we have to try and build up your evidence file that posting a video that tanks on YouTube or getting a B+ in a homework assignment was unpleasant and you survived, the world didn't end, your friend still liked you and your dog still wagged his tail when he saw you. Feelings pass. They suck, but they're not permanent. So when I work with anxious clients, we kind of gamify the situation. We actually have challenges and scorecards and we work on building up a new attitude, a new persona that takes on perfectionism and puts it in its place. So if you are interested in learning more about perfectionism or how I work as a therapist, click one of the buttons below and set up a consultation call with me or one of my team members, and we can happily answer your questions and talk to you about options for treatment and how we work. And stay tuned for a few more of these emails, and we will keep them coming so you get to learn more about anxiety and our approach to anxiety treatment.